I'd like to call this regular commission meeting to order for Tuesday, February the 11th, 2014. The invocation will be by Pastor Nicole Schwartz from the First Methodist Church. And if you'll please stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Also, if you have a cell phone, please either turn it off or put it on vibrate. Thank you.
Please join with me in prayer or observe a moment of silence. Gracious God, we thank you that you've called us to be leaders in this community. We ask that you pour your blessing out upon the community of Coffeyville and give us the vision to lead. Lord, we ask that you give us the grace with one another to know that there are many ways to lead in this community, and there are many ways that we can achieve your vision. Gracious God, we thank you for each and every person in this community. Lord, we thank you for their unique gifts and their unique location. Lord, help us as we serve you to minister to those in this community, to meet their needs and to recognize their place. Lord, we ask that you guide us and this community so that we can become a place where you are seen and felt. And Lord, we thank you for all of those who work and serve in this place. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, consent agenda items, regular city commission meeting minutes from Tuesday, January the 28th, 2014, and the appropriation ordinance number AO 1402 with an amendment I think Mr. Bradley would like to make to it. Mr. Bradley.
I thought maybe we'd entertain questions first, but I'll move on to the amendment. And that is there's an invoice that I provided to you just before the meeting from Sport Turf Midwest for the work that's been done at the stadium in replacing the turf. They are behind schedule a little bit because of the weather, but my recommendation would be that we authorize cutting the check and that we actually have it here with us and we give it to them at such time as they've finished putting in the fill and provided the training to the college on how to use the groomer and things like that. They expect to have that done towards the middle of next week, and I would suggest that we authorize the payment minus 10% that we would withhold and then give that final payment at the next meeting. But in any case, we wouldn't actually give them payment until on site they've gone through, done the punch list items, met with the college, met with the school district, and we're sure that everybody knows how to maintain the field.
So what would that make the ordinance amount?
That would change the amount to $1,472,548.84.
I'm sorry, what was that number again?
$1,472,548.84.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners?
I have none about that.
About any of it?
No, none about the turf
Okay.
issue.
Any other questions about the rest of the appropriation?
Yes.
Okay.
My first question is that page 1, the asbestos testing. There's a payment of $4,250. What are we testing? Are those the houses that we're demolishing, or?
Yes.
Okay. Second question I have and I don't recall, I thought I paid or actually I did, it's page 1. There's a gas appropriations for $720.39. The entry is for the restrooms at Walter Johnson Park.
That actually covers more than the restrooms. That's all of the gas usage there at the park. So it consumes more than just,
So
The
what
restroom
gas
facility.
usage, like, what gas usage at the park?
it would include the restrooms. Chuck, what other facilities would be out here that? Yeah. Ron
I didn't hear him.
Ron Stevenson Building.
It's the heat.
Now, the Ron Stevenson building is
It's separate.
a different entry here, so that would not include the Ron Stevenson building. The entry says it's $720.39 for the restrooms.
It's probably to heat the hot water for the showers, I would imagine.
That's a lot of showers, don't you agree?
There's a lot of campers staying out there.
Are they using the restrooms?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's why we keep those restrooms.
okay, so the restrooms are being used by the campers and so that would include heating the water.
I would assume. Are those gas, is it heated with gas or electric, do you know?
I'm sure it's heated with gas, I'm not sure.
I know when they were recently closed for 3 days, I heard a lot of complaints at work, so I know people.
So we don't know if they're heated with water or gas, or
I don't know if
electric
water.
or gas, or? No one
We
knows.
can check into
We can
it
check.
and get back to you with the answers.
That seems like just to me, $720.39 seems like a lot of money to heat a restroom.
We'll check on that one.
Okay. Second question I have is there's an entry, page 31, for Rough Country Towing. There's a $70 charge. I thought that we were in a contract with them for a set rate for each tow.
It's a $50 set rate. If it's between certain hours at night, there's an additional call-out fee of $20. That's in the contract.
Okay. And the next page, or the next question I have is page 18. There's an entry for, let me look it up so I get correct here. I thought I had the correct page, but nevertheless, it's a entry for, it's HIBU Publishing, and it's for $3,424, and I think it's a round number, and then it says White Pages next to it.
That's for the yellow pages in the phone book, and that advertises the aquatic center and the golf course and the RV campground, plus our listings for phone numbers.
Which book is that in? Because I
That would
looked
be
at
the yellow pages.
the Yellow Pages or I brought these phone books because I couldn't find them in there.
And that's for this coming year.
It's not for,
We've had
it's
a
not for the
display.
2013 and 14?
It's,
Or I'm sorry. Yeah, 14 and 15.
is that the yellow pages?
Yeah, this says the Yellow Book.
Okay.
And the only thing I could find in here that was different than anybody else's is that ours is bold in the White Pages. And
And this is actually display ads. I verified the information was correct that they sent as far as the exact name of the phone book Which one? Because we've got several.
This is what we paid $3,000 for, is to have our name bold under the city of Coffeyville. And it says either A, go to the Blue Book government pages, or City of Coffeyville, and it gives one number, or 911, or yada, or, and it goes or, all the way down. And we paid nearly $3,500 to have that bold
It
right
will
there.
be, there'll be a display ad also that we're paying for in the phone book. I can go get the folder.
I think that, that's kind of like business as usual down here, and that's, everybody else, there's not one other government entity in this book, including Montgomery, Chautauqua, Independence, none of them has went to that expense to make their,
Is one of the books you have, Chris, the, what they call the yellow book? The
this
yellow
says the
pages?
yellow book, yeah. And then there's like 3 other publishings in Coffeyville that come out that we evidently didn't decide to spend that money with because they're normal. But this particular one, for whatever reason, we chose it to spend $3,500 to make our, and evidently, this was, maybe it was done last time, maybe it wasn't, but the thing is that, we discussed the during the budget process of, is this the best that we can do? And if this is, if we're spending $3,500 to make our thing bold in the phone book, I don't think that that's necessary spending, but that's just my opinion.
Cindy, does that also include online information at yellowpages.com?
Yes,
Okay.
for the RV park and the golf course.
I see quite a few more than that. I see a city clerk, code enforcement,
Well, and
city number, electric department, finance
that would be the
department, public
display
service.
ads were for the RV park and
Okay.
the RV park and the golf course.
This is quite an online, extensive online listing here.
We have all of our departments listed, obviously, in the phone books too.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have any more questions.
No, no questions. I'll entertain a motion. A move to approve consent agenda items with changes. Appropriation ordinance AO-14-02 in the amount of $1,139,548.84. $1,472,548.84. I stand corrected. That's the new total. That includes the payment to Sport Turf.
Motion was made by Commissioner Faulkner and seconded by Mayor George to approve the consent agenda with changes, and that would include the payment to Sport Turf for the turf at the stadium, less 10%, and that will be made at the next meeting. Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Mayor George?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner?
Aye.
Commissioner Kessler?
Aye.
Regular agenda items, public hearings, proclamations, presentations, special presentations. We have none. We do have a presentation by the Coffeyville Recreation Commission on the batting cages. Lisa King, Jeff Gossard, and David Raines. It's good to see you guys again.
Hey, good evening, commissioners, staff. How are you guys? Last time we met, and I apologize for my absence. I was educating myself in Wichita. But Gary and I have met, and you guys should have a copy in front of you of the GIS drawing. So we are coming before you. Hopefully I can answer questions that maybe weren't answered at the last meeting. We are looking to install a 6-stall coin-operated batting cage at LeClaire Park, close to not only the adult fields, but we also play youth games at LeClaire. And you guys know the proximity to Exner at Little League this would bring. So I will entertain questions, but we are looking for your blessing or approval this evening.
Does city staff have any concerns about this plan at this point?
There's nothing that hasn't already been discussed. I mean, we've talked about the different sites and the debate as to which site is better. We completely agree that it needs to be near ball fields and everything, and it's their project. It's simply a matter of whether or not you agree with this site. I know there are concerns about how close, in this instance, how close it is to the road. I don't know if there were discussions, there were discussions at the last meeting about potentially outfields changing, or that it could slide back further away from the road, or, I mean, anything, is there anything?
I think we can get the project done without moving outfield fences.
One thing I would like to see as a change is that at least, if we're gonna make this the site, that it slide further to the north, so that we make sure we have room for sidewalks, so that there's good pedestrian traffic, a wide enough sidewalk for kids riding their bikes, things like that. I mean, ultimately, they can't own land, so they always have to come to us or the school district or somebody. And, you know, at some point, even though there are things that we want, we have to understand this is a board that's been appointed by us, by the school district, and by themselves with a role. And, you know, we can't push our agenda or our side of things too much.
Sure.
You know,
If that was done, according to the diagram here, that would eliminate approximately 20 parking spaces. Do you see that as a potential problem?
I don't see that as a problem, Commissioner. Rarely have we ever seen that parking lot close to full. Even when we've hosted state tournaments and regional tournaments, we've had plenty of parking to accommodate those people. So I do not see the parking as a problem.
Okay. I would just like to say thank you for the map, because it helps me then focus on where it's at and everything else, and I appreciate it.
Thank the city staff for that.
Yeah, Scott and the rest of you guys.
Yeah. And what about security for the equipment?
You know, we would have to fence it. And as it's coin operated, we're not going to have staff out there 24/7. So there is a risk of vandalism, just like there is at every facility that we have equipment at. So
Well, and just like our golf course. I mean, it's just a possibility you have to live with.
it is, unfortunately. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Takes up a lot less space than what I thought it was going to.
Do they need a motion, or is it just a,
It's just a presentation at this point.
I don't have any problem whatsoever with that location.
And I agree with the city manager, you know, it would need to be moved back so that there was appropriate space for future sidewalks through that area.
Agreed.
In new business, do we need to make a motion to approve this project, or just have a consensus right now?
We'll probably do a lease amendment to allow this facility and bring that back to you for approval.
And we can do that at the next meeting.
if you direct us to put together a lease amendment.
So at this point, it'd be appropriate to ask a consensus of the commission whether or not they approve of the project. I've got no objection to it.
I approve.
I approve.
I approve as well.
Okay.
Unanimous.
Thank you very
Bring
much.
us back a lease.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
we
guys.
appreciate it. Next item, comments from the public. If you'd like to get up and speak to the commission about anything, the only thing we ask is name and address. At any time during the meeting, if you would like to make a couple comments about what we're discussing, again, the only thing you need to do is come to the podium and name and address. Does anybody want to talk? Nobody wants to be on camera? Okay. Old business. Ordinance number G 1401, first reading of an ordinance to amend the quorum required for city commission meetings. City manager Gary Bradley will make comments.
I know that we left the agenda pretty much the way it was with me making comments, but I really think the city attorney is more appropriate at this point because they were his changes based on your recommendations.
Okay.
I'll be happy to make comments. At the last meeting, we talked about increasing the quorum of, for conducting business from 3 to 4 members of the Board of Commission. The concern was raised that if we had only 3 positions on the board, that they would be, the way it was written before, the remaining commission shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business of electing eligible persons to serve in office for the balance of the unexpired term of each respective office, but would have no authority to basically carry on the affairs of the city. So the new language is in red. It provides that if there's ever more than 1 vacancy, that the remaining commissioners would have the authority to elect eligible persons to fill such vacancies for the balance of the unexpired terms, and to transact all other business of the city for a time not to exceed 90 days from the date the vacancies were created, and that after that point in time, the authority of the commission, if there was more than 1 vacancy, would be limited to approving appropriations and approve other essential city functions until the board consists of at least 4 members. And I know you could ask the question, well, what is considered an essential city function? I don't know the answer to that necessarily, but certainly to pay bills, to execute authorized contracts that are essential for city functions. You know, I guess we'd have to address that at the time. Hopefully we won't ever encounter that situation. But that's the verbiage I came up with. I take no pride of authorship. If you all have other ideas, certainly we'd consider those.
Your rewrite addresses my concerns. Spoke to at the last meeting. I thank you for that, and I can already see Commissioner Williams' wheels turning with that definition of other essential city functions. I kind of question that too. I'm wondering, you know, that's kind of fuzzy. I'm not sure how to handle that.
It's, I mean, I don't think that you can sit here and spell out every essential function. I mean, like you said, it's left open broad to interpretation depending on who's interpreting at that particular time, but I don't think that you can, I think that we've done the best that we can do with what we have, so I'm satisfied with what we have here.
It's better than what we had.
I think we can be, the remaining commissioners could be trusted to act with integrity. I would hope.
Well, we've also got to realize that this is something that, you know, could potentially be here for generations to come, so, I mean, but I think that with what we have, we've sufficed for the purpose that we need at this point.
I agree.
Move to approve ordinance number G-14-01 for first reading.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Edwards and seconded by Commissioner Faulkner to approve ordinance number G-14-01 for first reading. Mayor George.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
New business, discussion and action to appoint 1 person to the Planning Commission, serving to January the 1st, 2017. The applicant is Justin Martin. Justin, are you here? You want to step to the podium?
Justin Martin,
Address?
2211 West 3rd, Coffeyville.
Okay.
Why would you want to get involved in this mess?
Just to be involved. I think it's better to be involved and try to make changes for the better than sit at home and complain about the changes that you're not helping make.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a lifelong resident, don't plan on going anywhere. and I want to leave it better for my kids.
I appreciate that you're willing to get involved.
Something I always kind of wanted to do.
Have you seen the survey that we had conducted, we had done last year?
A little bit of it, not a lot. I have moved a lot, and we haven't really stayed current with our newspapers, and I do appreciate the stuff that's being put on Facebook about information. I get a lot of stuff off the internet.
One of the issues that we've identified happens to be housing.
Yes.
And being on the commission, you have a lot of influence on that. Not only housing, but retail and the future growth of Coffeyville, the directions and stuff like that. I think, you've got Dennis Jacobs on there as he oversees the board, and I think he could give you a lot of insight into what we're looking at and everything else. And also just to bring you up to date, we're getting ready to redo the zoning ordinances, the codification of it. We'll be approving that here shortly. That's something you really need to get a hold of and read, because it tells you a lot of things that Planning and Zoning Commission does, and also it shows you the rules that they go by.
Yeah, I would love to get lots of paperwork and read up.
I've been on it, and it's a very challenging board, very challenging board.
Well, I'm ready to take it.
Good.
So,
We appreciate you applying for it. Any other questions for him?
There's going to be some big decisions. When I was on there, it was the rail hub over there that CBR wanted. It was a big issue. Lots of people came in for both meetings. That's something you'll be prepared to do, is make tough decisions. Are you ready to do that?
I believe so.
I've known Justin a long time. He's not one to shirk away from a fight, so. I move to appoint Justin Martin to the Planning Commission, serving through to January 1st, 2017.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Edwards and seconded by Commissioner Kessler to appoint Justin Martin to the Planning Commission, serving to January 1st, 2017. Commissioner Kessler.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Mayor George.
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you very much.
Number 2, discussion and action to appoint one person to the library board, serving to April 30th, 2018. The applicant is Megan Martin. Megan, you want to step up here?
I'm Megan Martin, 2211 West 3rd here in Coffeyville.
That's the same address as him, isn't it?
I know, go
Okay.
figure, yeah.
You related?
A little bit, yeah. Somehow I got roped into this one. I don't know. I'm just kidding. It's fine.
Any questions for her?
Do you currently use the library? Are you a patron there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you think?
It has a lot of good qualities, but there's a lot that I think could be done with it. A lot of programs that I see with area libraries that maybe we could expand and bring down here, especially for our early childhood people.
Okay.
No? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to appoint Megan Martin to the library board, serving to April 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Faulkner and seconded by Mayor George to appoint Megan Martin to the library board, serving to April 30th, 2018. And Commissioners, this will fill an unexpired term which goes to the end of April of this year, and then the 4-year term after that.
Okay.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Kessler.
Aye.
Mayor George.
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Item 3, Resolution R 1407, a resolution to execute a construction contract with Bryant and Bryant Construction for a K-Link project 166-169 U 002701. Engineering Superintendent Scott Massman will make comments.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We love those numbers, don't we, Mayor?
Yeah.
The contractor that was the low bid is Bryant and Bryant. They're from the Wichita area. The last time we worked with them, we won a national award. They completed the job in about half the time and did an additional 1,000 feet of concrete rehab. Really, the question tonight is how much money do you want to spend? And I've broke down all those possibilities in my staff report. We're recommending that we award the contract with Bryant & Bryant with alternate A, which will exceed $800,000. But we feel like Bryant & Bryant will get the job done again in half the time. The base bid is 60 calendar days. Alternate A is 10 additional days, and B is 10 additional days. So it's up to you gentlemen to decide how much money you want to spend. There are good reasons to do either way.
Do we have enough money available in budget? I know we have enough money available, but do we have enough money in the budget for this fiscal year to do all of it?
We do.
Is there a reason not to do all of it?
The reason is we wouldn't be getting our match from KDOT if we put it off till next year. We stand a chance of possibly being a 75-25 match next year because our population has dwindled. So there are savings by waiting for that match. But there's also time, and winter is especially hard on pavement. And I noticed this evening, it's getting pretty rough out there.
For the benefit of the people at home, can you just kind of give layman terms descriptions of what would be done if we did the whole project, what would be done to each section of road?
If we did the whole project from where the good concrete leaves off just east of Buckeye all the way to Walnut Street, every panel that is in need of rehabilitation will be sawed out and replaced with dowel bars, and then Nova Chip overlay will be placed on top of that, and that Nova Chip will go all the way out to East 8. We've been very happy with that product. So we'll have a sealed surface now, which...
And the Nova Chip overlay is what we put on South Walnut, correct?
It is, and we're very happy with that.
So according to the diagram, this would add on several blocks, looks like from about Hickman to Reed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then on to where we'd match up to the good concrete near Buckeye.
And see, that doesn't show on our map. Our map, alternate B stops at about Ellis.
I was afraid.
Now, Scott, they're
That's
gonna
the same
cut,
thing.
that's the same one
Is
we've
it the
got.
same one?
They're gonna cut and replace anything that we've already done. We've already done some cutting in that, on that area.
We have, but where there are panels that are in need of attention, that's
They'll
what
go
we'll
ahead
be
and
focused on.
refocus on those.
Yes,
And then we'll do the Nova Chip all the way. And you're talking all the way to Buckeye.
all the way to Buckeye.
From
let-
Buckeye.
Well, from where the good
from
concrete
Buckeye to,
ends on Buckeye, which is east of Buckeye, like 400 feet.
Yeah.
to 8th and Northeast?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Nova Chip, the bars you put under the road help support the panels, the edges of
Yes.
the panels.
It does an interlock with the concrete.
Right.
So that
And then the Nova
everything
Chip
stays in
overlay
place.
basically helps keep
Keeps
the
water
water
out.
from seeping through and basically rotting the road from the inside out.
Right.
So this theoretically should stop the constant problems we have on that
It
stretch of
does.
highway.
The Nova Chip also sheds water to the edge,
Right.
which is a good thing.
Okay.
And as far as going all the way to Buckeye, that's if you did A and B.
Right.
And just to be clear, this is kind of a competing values type of issue, because one of the things that we've tried to stress is the importance of streets, which was one of the top priorities, and also the stewardship of public funds. And by taking on the whole thing by ourselves, rather than leveraging our funds and getting some match there, doing Part B, you get less done for your money.
So what do you
Because we're
recommend?
paying for Part B without a match, whereas potentially if we waited until next year and submitted that as a Clink project, we could get a match from the state.
In my opinion, part of the problem that we've had in the past for many, many years is we wait and we don't do projects unless we get state match, and there's just not enough state matching funds out there to keep up with the mess that our roads have become, and I think sometimes we have to bite the bullet and just get it done. We've got a lot of ground to cover to get caught up.
Agreed. I'm just saying that there are those two issues. One is the getting the project done,
Yeah.
and the other is the stewardship of public funds. And that money that we spend on this is another street that can't get done somewhere else if we would have been able to get the match from the state next year and do it. I'm not advocating one way or another. I'm just making sure that you're informed, because we talked just a minute ago about difficult choices that have to be made sometimes. This is one where there's not really a right or wrong answer.
But that area that is alternate B that you're speaking of is also, if I'm correct, the last traffic study I saw was the highest traveled part of our city streets. Is that still correct? That was the highest traffic count in the whole town?
No. No, I thought Walnut and 166 is. That's the highest traffic count in town.
Scott, we were looking at that today.
Yeah, the counts are unbelievable. You just wouldn't believe the numbers, but
The local traffic between Buckeye and Walnut increases that count a lot.
Yeah.
Whether, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Go ahead. My question is that whether or not we approve A and B, or we wait, if we do approve A and B and take it upon ourselves to tackle that situation, does that take away from the comprehensive street plan that's already been in place?
Potentially, yes. When we passed the sales tax last year, everything that we put out with the maps showed that this assumes continuing the existing sales tax, which is supposed to come off next year. If the voters didn't reapprove that because somehow their priorities changed and streets were no longer that important to them, this money that we'd be spending on this is part of that money that could potentially go towards fixing those residential streets.
So we told them that we told the taxpayers that we're gonna take that money and spend it on.
On transportation, and we showed citywide.
But we threw that map out there too.
We put the map out there, and it did have language on there that's, we were doubling our efforts. If they choose not to keep those efforts doubled, they need to know that we will not be able to continue spending money on streets like we had 2 sales tax in place if we only have 1. And I think they can do that math.
Just for clarification. Oh, here it is. Our cost in this was a 75-25 match,
50/50.
50-50,
Yeah, and it's 2 years combined,
okay?
so the total amount would be 800,000 on
So
50/50.
anything over 800,000, we have no match for, and we're paying out of pocket.
Okay. Any other questions?
But I would like to say on the flip side, if you wait till next year, you get that match, but the street continues to deteriorate for another year because it's not sealed. So it could become a bigger project next year that they're paying half of.
Agreed. There's not a right or
Yeah,
wrong answer.
it's
really.
a-
How much additional deterioration?
It depends on the weather. And winter, of course, is the hardest on roads.
I'd say do all of it. Do it now, do it later. You're gonna do it. You might as well just do it now and get it over with.
Just rip the Band-Aid off.
It's the highest, if it's not the highest traveled part of town, it's among the top 3 for sure.
You've certainly got a good price from the contractor for the rehab work. He's bidding that at $100 a square, so.
Make a motion.
Move to approve resolution number R-14-07 for adoption, doing the entire project. Alt B, Alt A, and the base, all of it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Edwards and seconded by Commissioner Faulkner to approve resolution number R-14-07 for adoption, and that would include alternate A and alternate B. Mayor George.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Resolution R 1408, a resolution to execute an agreement with Utility Financial Solutions for an electric cost of service study. Interconnected Operations Manager Steve McGee will make comments.
Evening, Commissioners and Mayor. At the November 26, 2013 Commission meeting, the Commissioners directed staff to go out for RFQs to perform an electric cost of service study. As per the City of Coffeyville purchasing policy, RFQs were sent to 9 companies on December 20, 2013, asking them to submit their qualifications to perform an electric cost of service study. 4 companies responded. City Manager, Finance Director, and electric utility staff reviewed the submitted RFQs and evaluated them based on 5 criteria: responsiveness, project approach, firm experience, staff experience, and project schedule. Staff set up in-person interviews for the top 2 companies, which took place January 30th and 31st of this year. City Manager, Finance Director, and electric utility staff decided Utility Financial Solutions would be the best choice to perform the cost of service study. Staff recommends the mayor be authorized to execute an agreement with Utility Financial Solutions to perform an electric cost of service study in the amount not to exceed $42,500, which includes 2 additional on-site presentations at $2,800 per visit. One of these visits would be to present the study results to the commission, and if need be, to present it to our major customers. So,
Do we know why 3 of them declined?
no. 2 of them were too busy, I do know that, but the others didn't even respond at all, so.
Were the factors that you mentioned all weighted equally, or was there one
No,
that was?
they were not.
What was, I scribbled a note here, what was the most important factor?
The most important factor would have been the project approach, not by much. The second most was staff experience.
Because that took a while to wade through all of that.
Yeah.
There was an awful lot of information there from all of those companies.
And it's $2,800 per presentation,
Yeah, that's on here.
and, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with us raising the rates, but I also think that the people who were here saying that they think that we should postpone it and do this study, if they're interested in the study, I think they can show up to one presentation. I mean,
My thoughts exactly, Commissioner Williams.
if they're
gonna
interested
come to
in it,
make-
they need to show up, we'll publish it, and they'll know when to be here.
Well, that would take $2,800 off the cost, too.
Make one presentation and everybody come to the party.
And if they're not, they can watch it for free on the internet.
Absolutely.
That would be my motion minus the extra 2,800 for the second presentation.
Second?
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Edwards to approve resolution number R-14-08 for adoption, and that would be the amount not to exceed $42,500 less $2,800 for one of the on-site visits.
That's correct.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Mayor George.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Item 5, Resolution R 1409, resolution to purchase a Carlson Surveyor Plus data collector for the engineering department. Engineering Superintendent Scott Massman will make comments.
Thank you again, Mayor. I'm here to ask for some more money. What else is new? A data collector is an essential part of a surveyor's toolbox. It revolutionized how we gather data, and not only does it gather topographic data, it also stakes out. It is a companion to a surveyor, and it's a tool we just must have. The one that we have been using is on the Blitz, and I can't fix it. I can't buy another one like it. So we're asking for, we use a TopCon total station, and this Carlson Surveyor Plus is the industry standard for the surveyors in this area.
And it's $3,395.
It is.
So is this a zero-sum gain for the department? Is this instead of, or is it a request for an addition to?
This is an addition to.
Okay,
This was
and-
not an expected
And where's the
cost.
addition to coming from? Mr. City Manager?
General fund?
No, capital improvements.
Capital Improvements Fund, we would try to have them save money, but if we can't save the money throughout the year, the 20% that comes from the sales tax for capital equipment is not entirely allocated in the budget.
All right, thank you.
I will say this, we do save you quite a bit of money when we do these topos of the street intersections. And when we do two street intersection topos, we're gonna pay for this unit.
Well, we just nearly paid for this deal by not having a meeting on the other one.
Separate funds. I'm not sure you can save the electric funds money and move to the general fund all of the time.
I'll move to approve resolution number R-14-09 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Faulkner and seconded by Mayor George to approve resolution number R-14-09 for adoption. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Mayor George.
Aye. Item 6, ordinance number S 1403, the first reading of an ordinance to approve the annual renewal of the tax exemption incentive for Four State Maintenance Supply Incorporated. City Manager Gary Bradley will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is a requirement annually. In 2009, the City Commission approved an abatement as part of an expansion for Four State. And annually, we come back and review this and determine at what percentage we should continue to abate the taxes on the incremental portion. So what was existing for that building, they're paying taxes on. It's just the new part. We agreed to enter into that in 2009 through 2019 for a 10-year abatement. And it was tied to certain things such as employment. In your staff report, it talks about the conditions under which you evaluate whether or not they've been successful. While Four State has not met the employment goals annually that were set, they have met and in fact exceeded the goals when you talk about the total amount of compensation that they pay. So while they are not having as many people employed as they had originally anticipated, and I will say I don't know that the agreement necessarily lined out one person per year, but while they're not on pace to meet that, the jobs that they have are much higher paying than what was originally anticipated and what was set as a goal. The goal for this year was $14.58. They're paying $8.45 over that. If you multiplied that times the number of employees they have, it'd be like having 15 extra people around, 15 to 15 and a half. Again, it's a legislative discretion up to you to determine whether or not to pay at 100%, 90, 80, whatever you decide. But we have historically, when we've made a commitment to a company to abate their taxes for a certain period, we have traditionally done that. And the extent to which they haven't added people, it's hard to judge, whether or not a company should or shouldn't be held responsible for that because of economic factors that may be beyond their control. There maybe is a strong case for the fact that there's not as much growth in the economy, and so they haven't been able to sell as much in the way of cleaning supplies, things like that. So take that factor into consideration as well. Also, I believe they have representatives here to answer any questions that you might have.
I think the important thing to probably remember is this company could have very easily hit their employee number goal if they had just gone out and hired, a high school kid to come in after school at $7.25 an hour and sweep the floors and take out the trash. And if I had a choice between them hitting their numbers that way or paying a large, basically a living wage to all their current employees, I would certainly go the route that they went, and I would not want to see us penalize them for making decisions that are not only helping them stay in business and keep all the jobs they have, but I believe the national economy went down right after they added on to the building. It was in progress, the construction was, and the housing market tumbled, and it brought the whole economy down. And so you can never really rub a crystal ball and know when things like that are going to happen. And this is just one more example of a company that is faced with a lot of unknown expenses coming up with the Affordable Care Act. I just personally like to see us stand behind them and let them continue to try to fight it out and see what they can come up with.
This is the type of company, I want you to consider this not just with regard to this particular abatement, but anyone going forward and in the future. This is the type of company where it grew from 3 people in a garage to having 28 to 30 in a building that I think was put together by Coffeyville Industries, and it's a homegrown thing. And this is what you talk about when you talk about retention and expansion and abatement of property taxes is one of the tools that's used for that. So this
It's a local company. I mean, the owners are
Yep.
sitting right back there. It's not a company owned out of Seattle or a giant corporation. I mean, these are local people, and they're fighting, just like all the rest of us are, to keep their head above water. And approving this doesn't cost us any money. I mean, it's not something that we'd have to, write them a check if we approve it. They improve their facility, and we give them a tax abatement, and once that 10-year abatement is up, then we get the benefit of the additional tax dollars at that point. But the carrot that we give them up front is we give them an abatement in the meantime to induce them to do that. They could have very easily. How far out do you guys go? It's a 4-state area, basically, correct? I mean, you guys.
On about 250-mile radius of Coffeyville.
You guys could have very easily, instead of adding on to your facility here, you could have built a facility somewhere in Topeka or Oklahoma City or Joplin, and probably have received the same benefits as you received here, if not better ones. Because I know in Joplin, I believe they had, at least at one point in time in the last few years, had a program where they would build a building for you and basically lease it to you for nothing. So, I mean, these folks could have done this somewhere else.
Obviously, there's opportunities, and we enjoy the community here from where we live in Coffeyville to.
You have to come up and be on television.
I would just comment to thank you gentlemen, Gary and you gentlemen, for the kind words. Nice to hear the comments. Yes, at the time we visited about this particular abatement, there was discussions of doing an expansion elsewhere. And that time Jeff come to us and very graciously asked us to consider that, and we did that. The run between 2003 and 2008, we doubled the size of our company. Obviously, I don't know that we were exactly involved in the numbers that were crunched or the amount of people, but we have grown those numbers over the years. The last couple of years, our numbers are permanent. We seem to be kind of treading water. Had a couple skilled labor jobs that individuals retired, got a resignation. You don't just run out and replace those people real quickly. We have hired a couple people here since the first year and are in process of training some young Coffeyville people that are 24 to 28 years old. Takes a while to get them up to the pace, even doing something simple as selling janitor supplies. But you know, we're here, we're working, we're steady. We've had 2 great sales years. We're not experiencing the growth that we experienced in 03 or 04, but I don't know that very many companies are. We're getting ready to finalize our anniversary's coming up for our health insurance, and we talked about health insurance. We're looking at a 21% increase in health insurance costs for our group this year, and along with those good jobs, we are providing those benefits to our employees. So we appreciate your consideration and the positive comments.
We're glad you're here, Tom. We're glad you're here. Anybody else?
Thank you. Move to approve ordinance number S-14-03 for first reading.
You beat me to it. Second.
And that would be 100%. Is that 100% the ordinance
Yes.
has?
100%.
Motion was made by Commissioner Edwards and seconded by Mayor George to approve ordinance number S-14-03 for first reading. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Mayor George.
Aye. Keep doing it, Tom. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
Item 7, discussion on building permits.
I know that we always have in the past.
A few weeks ago, we had a meeting in which we discussed perhaps waiving all or a portion of a building permit fee for the school in relation to the technical academy that's being constructed. I had Dennis get some information on what we had done in the past for some of the other taxing entities. You can see that they have been waived in 3 instances, and they've been paid in 5, and he believes they were paid in the 6th. But this is totally up to you as far as what type of policy you would like to set. It can, and I think the main thing that I heard at the last meeting is that you want to be fair and consistent. You want to make sure that if you do something for the college, you do it for USD 445, you do it for the Rec Commission and any other taxing entities. The hospital's not a taxing entity, but it is a city-owned facility, and in the past, we have both charged them and waived the fee.
My question is these funds or these fees that we're collecting on these permits, they're going to offset
Our costs.
our cost? Are we making, I mean, for lack of better terms, are we making a profit on this or what?
In essence, you could say yes, like on the building that's going to be constructed for the school, his actual time spent out in the field or in his office doing plan review, yes, there is more money charged than his actual hours, but most businesses operate like that because there's downtime as well, and you've got overhead, the costs of keeping him employed and the lights on and the doors open.
I would like to see, myself personally, is I would like to see that these entities are given a break, because they're basically, well, like you said, they're taxing entities. However, I would like to see, personally, I would like to see the break be that they don't pay anything above and beyond our cost.
I agree.
Agree, discuss that as an
Agree.
option.
And
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that we're trying to make a profit off of, basically you're taking money out of one pocket and putting it in the other. So, that'd be
Okay.
my
That
thought.
sounds fine.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Item 8, discussion on 911 consolidated dispatch.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Where are we?
You had asked to have this. put
Yes,
on.
I mean, obviously, the only thing we know is what we're reading in the newspaper. So, where are we at, and
I would say we are
I've
in,
heard quotes from people that said one thing, and then they said something else later. so
we are in the county is in the very early stages of planning on having a centralized 911 dispatch center. The county has come to us, and Tony and I, and asked us if we would be involved in trying to gather information and trying to figure out if having a centralized dispatch system is feasible and if it will improve the service that we currently have.
Who from the county, just for a point of clarification?
Commissioner Rao, county commissioners. So and this is being driven by the county. We have a meeting next Wednesday, and they're trying to formulate an advisory board to get this kick-started, because we've been down this road before. We've never made it this far. But we're looking at other counties that have this, and of the 105 counties in the state, there's 117 PSAPs, dispatch centers. Now, 6 of them belong in the Johnson County area, but we have some in southeast Kansas to some degree or another. Labette County is consolidated, not 100%, but it is consolidated. Allen County, Neosho County, just to name a few.
And it's my understanding one entity is already withdrew, or is that opted out, I should say?
Not to my knowledge.
Independence didn't,
Independence had a representative at the last meeting.
okay, so they're still involved.
According to the city manager, they want to participate in this process.
Okay. And at this point, we don't have any idea where this is gonna be, who's gonna run it,
No.
or,
Well, it will be ran by the county.
And funding comes from where?
Or a totally separate entity, that a board that's put together with representatives from each. So how it's governed and administered has not yet been determined.
and it's not been determined where it's gonna be located,
No, it hasn't.
or how it's gonna be funded?
Commissioner Rao made a point at the last meeting that we want to discuss the feasibility of it and how it's going to work before they talk about cost. Because he doesn't want cost to be a deterrent from this happening.
Is he unhappy with what's going on now?
He had some complaints brought to him from county agencies, county departments, about the way that they were being dispatched.
Are we unhappy with the way that things are going now?
Well, I don't know if you can say unhappy, but Here's what happens right now. The citizens, the residents of Coffeyville, they pay a fee through landline and wireless, and Coffeyville Dispatch gets the landline fees. So if
Which
you
have been diminishing greatly over the last 15 years.
Right, at a rate of usually, now they say about 7% a year.
Yeah.
The wireless funds are increasing. So if you call from your home, from your landline, if you call 911, you'll get dispatch in Coffeyville, and they will dispatch according to your issue. If you do that from your wireless phone, from the same location in Coffeyville, that goes to Independence, and they will transfer your call to Coffeyville. So the residents here are not getting what we pay for.
Well, and the tax that we're paying on our cell phones for 911 service, where's that money going to?
For wireless, it goes to Independence.
And how much of that money are they sending to Coffeyville?
Nothing.
Zero.
Nothing.
Why?
Why? Because that's the way it's set up now.
Because they can.
Well,
No, it's because that they are the PSAP, I mean, that they are recognized by the state, Tony, am I saying that right? To collect the wireless money.
and it's always been that way, but does it have to remain that way?
Notwithstanding that if I called 911 from my cell phone, notwithstanding the fact that local response is made, the money stays in Independence, the tax money.
Correct. That money, the intent of that money is to go to the agencies that's going to dispatch the service. In this instance, that's not being done.
And that was my question, is why, and if it's always been that way, is it subject to be that way forever, or can it be changed?
Can that do, where you're going,
Centralized
if I may- if
dispatching
I
would
can
change
put-
that.
If I can put words in your mouth, can we negotiate that with the city of Independence? Or in some future, under some future program with the county? Would we be in a position to be able to do that? Or by regulation, would it all go to
That I
wherever
can't answer
wherever
that
the
question.
facility
I don't know.
winds up?
Do we have an idea of what dollar amount we're talking about, like in 2013? How much of our money that was for cell phones in the Coffeyville area? went to
I don't know
Independence?
that.
Would you have a ballpark guesstimate?
I wouldn't.
James, come on.
I don't know what
Okay.
percentage of Coffeyville's.
Do you know how much money they received from cell phones for 911 for the whole county, the city of Independence? Because we could fear that roughly
52% of it's here.
We could probably get that amount from the state.
I'd be interested to
I
know
would
what it is.
suspect.
Chief Celeste, do you have an idea?
I do not know how much money Independence takes in. I can tell you that we took in a little over $98,000.
For landlines?
2013 from landlines.
And so you can extrapolate that if we get almost $100,000 for landlines, there have to be several times more cell phones out there. So we're probably losing $250,000 a year.
But not all those landlines are in Independent, or in Coffeyville, is that correct? We're getting,
That's
Well,
correct.
but
We collect.
we dispatch for like Deering Fire Department, so we're dispatching for more than just the people in the city. proper.
exactly, but we're getting tax money from people that are outside the corporate city limits too.
But not for a majority of the phones, because a majority of the phones out there now are cell phones.
No, I'm just saying for the landlines,
So when the
everything in the southern part.
when the
Right,
discussion,
in the southern part, we collect tax money for the landlines in the southern part of the county, correct.
so when the conversation started, I thought, just for some reason, I had in my head, we were talking about tens of thousands of dollars, but actually, we're talking about hundreds of thousands, correct?
Potentially.
Potentially.
I believe so, and at the end of the day, this might be a moot point because the county commission will probably have the authority to take away this money anyway and form a county PSAP. So at the end of the day, we probably likely won't have any control over it anyway. But certainly pursuing the issues with the cell phones and how they're transferred is something we could do. But again, that may not be an issue very soon anyway.
I think my biggest concern is, it was about a year ago, I was driving home from down 10th Street Road from Independence, coming home from work one night, at a little bit after, I believe it was 5 o'clock. And there was a car overturned in a ditch, and it was near the pump station road. And the call that went to 911 got handled like a hot potato. And I don't want to go into details. This was a person that you and I went to school with, Justin, and
Yep.
he didn't live. He didn't make it. He was trapped in that vehicle, and the vehicle caught fire. And I think that the most important thing in this situation is for us to continue the dialogue with the other entities and hope that we can come to, I think the biggest priority has got to be that however our 911 services are dispatched, it has to be in the most efficient manner possible. If that is to keep it the way it is, then that's the way it needs to be done. If it can be done more efficiently by everybody being together and consolidating it, and it being its own entity, answering to a board, we need to be open-minded about doing that. But we can't have situations where people are in car accidents or their house catches fire and they're near an imaginary boundary, and you call from a cell phone and it gets routed to this place, and then they send it to that place, and the daring firefighters are standing there, they're literally geographically closer than any other fire entity, and they're waiting to be dispatched, and they can't go until they are, and they never get dispatched, and they're standing there for minutes while they wait for a call that never comes. That kind of stuff can't happen. We've got a responsibility to explore all options, is all I'm saying.
Well, that's true, and I think we also have to take in consideration, we're getting ready to do a major remodel, and we'll have a brand-new dispatch center here. It might be a good point to bring up with the county.
That's my concern with this whole issue, is being, first of all, I kind of found out that we were for it without even being, me and you have discussed it, but there's been no discussion on this board, as far as I know, other than one other time, and that was during a budget hearing. But other than that, that's the only time that we've ever even discussed it amongst ourselves, unless it's been discussed,
Well, are you against discussing it and participating
No, I
in
would like to.
discussion?
I would like to discuss it, but the thing is I would like to be kept in the loop and find out that we're, it may be the greatest thing since sliced bread. No one knows, because it's never been here before. But the thing is that to be for something, I'd like to at least know that we're for it before we find out that we're for it.
I think all we're saying right now is that we're for discussing the possibilities.
And I'm fine with that.
And we can bring periodic updates to you. That's what
I'd
you
like
desire.
that. Because the thing is that, not saying that the newspaper never gets it right, because I'm sure they do. But that's the only thing that we get to find out about these things, is what we read in the newspaper, which they're always right.
We'll bring you updates.
And just a question for, I know this is probably when we started the entire project with the remodeling here and refurbishing of City Hall. This probably wasn't part of the conversation as far as the dispatch center with the refurbished areas down there in the police department. But would there be, I guess the question is, just kind of off the top of your head, do you even think that there would be a possibility of having sufficient space to accommodate this at the county level right here.
I do, and again, James pointed out, this wasn't driven by us, this wasn't something that we presented, it's what's the county's presenting. And I think regardless of what happens, our plans to have a dispatch center here is something that we need to keep in our plans. I think no matter what, no matter how this pans out, if there is a consolidation and it's not here in Coffeyville, then I think we still need a dispatch center for, even if it's just a backup, the county backup, our emergency communications center. So I think regardless, it's important that we keep those in our plans. And if the county commission does choose to consolidate and they want to put it here in Coffeyville, we'd have a facility there as well. So I think regardless of what happens, we'd like to move forward with our continued plans for that dispatch center in our building, because it'll be useful and valuable to us no matter how this unfolds.
Never mind.
Oh, go ahead. Can't be worse than what I've said tonight.
Has there been an issue in the past with misappropriation of funds for 911?
Where? Here?
No.
On the county level?
Am I aware of that? I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
The 911 funds have, the funding changed a couple years ago. There was, we did have an audit in 2012, and I think there was one budget item that didn't qualify that the state pointed out, and we moved that fund for that budget item. I think it was for a software item that we believed would qualify for the 911 funds. The state said it did, and so we just moved from another fund and appropriately took care of that. I don't know if that's what you're asking about.
I'm not talking about here, I'm talking about in Independence.
That I don't have any knowledge of.
Okay.
My last thought on the issue is, if this path, this exploration of cooperating with the other entities in the county doesn't bear fruit and we don't become part of a group, I think then at that point we need to exhaust ourselves pursuing getting the 911 funds from cell phones and repatriate that money down here where it belongs.
I agree.
And I think that we need to make very clear to our friends up in Independence who take our water out of the river every summer that we will be asking for that money if this effort doesn't bear any fruit. And I don't know what, you've told me, I forget what the process is. I know it's not just as simple as we would like to think it is, but we need to start making clear, I think, our intentions that if working together isn't going to be the path that they choose with us, that we want that money, because it is being generated from our people. Is that the consensus of the commission?
Yes.
It is me.
And I would even go so far as to say that I would like to have some sort of, at least at a minimum, reassurance that those 911 cell phone funds are being utilized for that purpose and not being diverted to other general fund issues that we're not aware of.
The funds that we receive from the state 911 board are very closely regulated on what we can spend them on. We're very limited, and it's there's very strict guidelines on what we can expend those funds are. So they are a separate fund, a separate account, and every year we account for every dollar we spend out of that fund. So they are
I was
closely
referring
regulated.
to the tax funds that go to Independence.
Certainly.
Okay.
Do we need a resolution to that effect, that we ask for that money back, or what, Mr. City Manager, what do you suggest?
I don't think it requires a resolution. I think your intent is clear and staff will.
I just want our friends up north to know that we're very serious about receiving our money.
I will communicate it to them, and I'm sure they'll probably read about it tomorrow as well.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Comments from commissioners and staff?
Quick update on a couple of things we're working on that we'll be bringing agreements to you in the upcoming commission meetings. Every 5 years, we go through the selection process for our airport engineering consultant. We've requested qualification from firms, and we've received 5 responses. The selection committee is currently in the process of evaluating those submittals, and after a consultant is selected, we'll be bringing an engineering services agreement to the city commission. And we've also requested qualifications for a downtown traffic study. We're currently in the selection process. We received 8 responses, and the selection committee has narrowed the list to 5 for interviews, which are scheduled Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. After the committee makes a selection, we'll be bringing that agreement to the commission for action, hopefully at your next commission meeting. Be happy to answer any questions.
On the first issue with the
Yes.
engineering services at the airport,
Yes.
that's just ask for bids about how much you charge us per hour for this kind of
That's
service?
not for any specific design or construction project. It's more of an on-call for services needed by the city
Right.
or requested by the city, for things like assistance with FAA requirements and submittals, or submittal of grant applications, acting as our liaison with the FAA. And as I said, it'd be billed on an hourly rate for the hours
What
actually
kind of
requested.
engineer does those kinds of services, or do you use different kinds of engineers out there?
They do kind of
You know
specialize.
what I'm getting at, don't
Yeah,
you?
they do specialize, yeah. It's not something we would want to have on staff, an FAA
You're jumping to the end
specialist.
now, stay with me here.
But I'm just saying, that is kind of a specialty, and
Okay.
they have a relationship with the appropriate people at FAA that they can call up, and FAA doesn't so much know who we are.
But they know
as
these
our
engineers,
consultants.
and
Yeah.
they do help us get 90-10 matches a lot.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, grants.
So in that
And-
sense, it's probably more than paying for itself to go this route.
I think it's a necessity. I mean,
You're off the
to
hook
make
this-
sure you're
off the
doing
hook
it
This
right.
time.
Okay.
On these engineers, you're off the hook.
Okay.
I'm still not convinced that we wouldn't be money ahead to have an engineer on staff for other things such as roads, and everybody over there smiling because they know they've heard this about 1,000 times before, but we
Yeah,
just do
and-
so many road projects that I really have to wonder if you add up the money that we spend in an average year, if we wouldn't be money ahead to have that work being done in-house.
I can't argue 100% that it couldn't pay if that person were allowed to do design
Yeah.
and not spend all his time on management.
Sure. Okay, fair enough.
But any questions on the traffic study? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your department's efforts on the snow removal. I know it's not an easy job and it's not glamorous, but you all do a lot better job out there than I would.
We can work really hard, but the sun comes out and takes care of it a lot.
Well, I do have to say too, Chuck, I've been in some other communities, and our streets were taken a lot better care of than some of the other communities I was in.
Here in the news.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I want to give you an update on the repairs being made that were made to Boiler 4. They were completed January 30th. The total outage was 7 days. We expected 10 to 20 initially. The contractor come in, worked 10, 12 hours a day out in the cold to get that fixed. Boiler 5 testing was completed last Tuesday. We're awaiting a report from the engineering firm. We did bring the boiler up to full load, the unit up to full load, and manual control. We should have a report late this week with recommendations. After that, I'm expecting a month to 2 months to make changes, modifications to the boiler, and then we'll have it released back to us from the state. GRDA requested full load generation from our number 7 unit on the 6th. We made contact with our gas supplier, Due to the extreme cold weather and the gas curtailments and a critical system notice that was issued, we were unable to obtain natural gas to generate. Just for reference or note, that day the prices for natural gas had spiked from $9 for a million cubic feet of gas up to $33.
Why?
Supply and demand.
Wow.
2 days later, it dropped back to $8.
Wow.
So
Holy cow.
Do we have a gas contract?
not in the essence for price. We pay the market price. And it fluctuates.
And why did they deny us use of gas?
They had started system curtailments. They have to provide natural gas to residential customers first, industries higher up the list, or down the list, however you want to look at it.
So it wouldn't matter if those folks didn't have electricity because we couldn't
There
generate?
there were other ways to heat. I mean, that's, you could,
Wow.
if you could get the gas, you were going to pay an extreme amount per million cubic feet for the gas.
Lord.
But our supplier said they probably couldn't even secure the gas for us to generate.
So what did that cost us in terms of payments from GRDA?
I'm not aware at this point whether they actually considered us in outage for that day.
Holy cow, that's scary.
Was that considered, would that have been considered an outage under the contract?
Even if it does, I think we're probably better off because of the spike in the natural gas prices, the hit we would have taken on that.
Okay.
I think they wouldn't have wanted to use us at
At
that
that
price for the
price,
gas. It wouldn't have
exactly.
been cost effective for them either.
Okay. For the 7 days, the 7 days you mentioned, what was the cost for that? How much of a hit did we take there
The outage,
for the outage?
1,000?
yeah, 25 to 27,000.
So not that significant a hit on the budget.
Well, any hit like that is bad, but I mean,
It was a forced outage. It was unavoidable.
yeah.
Okay.
Mike, if we'd have been located somewhere else in the chain for natural gas, would we still had to been curtailed? Okay.
Yeah, location didn't matter as far as locally on a pipeline. No, it wouldn't have mattered.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I've got a question for you. And this is, I mentioned this once before, back in the day. What is the possibility or the feasibility of the city of Coffeyville having its own gas well? I mean, is there sufficient pressure down there to justify it? I mean, somewhere in the city archives, there's a map that shows about somewhere between 15 to 20 gas wells located inside the city limits of Coffeyville that were capped forcibly, were capped by the state back in the 50s, I think. So there is gas underneath us, underneath this city. The question
Or
is.
gas wells, yes.
There's, the question is, what's the pressure? Would it be sufficient to justify our own, drilling and, would it even be worthwhile?
I don't think it would for the amount of generation that we're currently being requested. I don't think that's a liability we would want to take on, owning a separate gas line, a gas system.
I think what we determined a few years back was if we generated year-round, it would be a different story.
It would be.
Since we only generate a few months of the year and some years not at all.
Well, and our generation is increasing
Yes.
by nature of the request coming from GRDA, but at this point, I don't think it would be feasible to invest and take on that liability of a gas system.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask the question.
Thank you.
At some point it will be feasible.
There were a lot of gas wells inside the city.
Yeah, but those are all individual. They don't belong to the city.
I know.
Just wanted to update the commission that we do have a request for proposals out currently for updates to our storm siren system, updates and improvements to our storm siren system. So we'll be bringing you more information as that develops as well.
Thank you.
Just a quick update, we do have our fiscal year 2013 audit scheduled. It is for April 21st through 23rd. At some point during those 3 days, we will be contacting one of you because they like to have one of the commissioners come in and visit with them. So just to make you aware of that. Also, we do have an update on the cost-benefit analysis that's being done by Springstead for the new Holiday Inn hotel. They are trying to work through some issues with the transient guest tax, trying to determine the dollar amounts that they can count on in their study for those. So once they get that issue sorted out, they expect to have preliminary results back to us within a couple days after that issue is taken care of. And then it's just a matter of going over the assumptions that they've made and answering any questions that we have. So that report should be coming fairly quickly.
Anybody else? You like being on the camera or something?
Being on a camera like this is probably showing them the good side anyways, so it doesn't matter much, as long as I think I'm lined up like this. Unfortunately, last week there were some concerns raised. I heard praise earlier about our snow removal efforts, but there were also some concerns raised about our preparation and subsequent removal of some of the snow that fell on the city streets. During the preparation for the impending snow, staff pre-treated certain intersections in certain areas. And unfortunately, as an employee was passing by my house on their way to the street maintenance facility, they sprayed some of the pre-treatment along that block of 4th Street. The employee was not directed to do so by me, Mr. Shively, Mr. Bradshaw, or any other city employee or elected official, anybody appointed or elected, and they did not expect to receive any compensation in exchange for having sprayed the area along 4th Street in the 600 block. They also sprayed that pre-treatment only on a city street. So there was no criminal action involved. It was not a misappropriation or misuse of government property or funds because it was on a public street. Their intent behind that action was to ensure that if I needed to go out to respond to a fire or the electric plant or any of the other legitimate municipal functions, they wanted to make sure that I could get out if I needed to. I appreciate that thought. However, the message that it can send, if it's seen by someone, is one of favoritism and special treatment. That's not what I want. That's not what our city as a whole wants to be the message. We want people to know that we try to provide great service to all of our residents, businesses, and visitors, not a select few people. Over the years, city employees have gotten familiar with people who call in and say, you know, I have this need or that need, and you know, you need to come back and clear around my area a little bit better. And so proactively, they have taken it upon themselves at times to do that as well in order to avoid getting that phone call to come back to this street or that street. And that too sends the message that we have favoritism. From now on, when we get those phone calls, we need to let people know that we're going to clear the primary streets, then the secondary streets. We've got a certain standard that we're trying to achieve and then move on to the residential streets. And that we're going to be fair and equitable, and that everybody deserves great service. So while I had no knowledge of it, didn't know that it happened until it had been brought to my attention, I apologize, and I'm convinced and certain that staff knows that if any street is pre-treated or any block, mine would be the last one in the city of Coffeyville. So people should know that. And I'm confident that this won't happen again, and I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioners?
I have a couple things. In my phone book rant, I forgot to bring something up, and it's already said, it's already a done deal now, but still the principle of the issue is not to fall the what's already done. I think it's necessary to bring up once again. There was a expenditure, and I don't remember where it's at, but it was for, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was for Thompson Lumber on page 35. And it was for lumber that was purchased from Thompson in South Coffeyville, once again. I think back in April or May of 2013, my second or third meeting on the City of Coffeyville Commission, I brought up about spending money outside of the City of Coffeyville. We're on a campaign of spend your money locally, but then we turn around as an entity and travel across the straight line to buy something that we can buy right here in Coffeyville. And I think, once again, I think I've reiterating the point that I think it's important to myself. I can't speak for the rest of the commission here but it's important to myself, and it's important to the people that I represent, that when it is available to spend locally, it needs to be spent locally. The second thing that I wanted to...
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
I just got an email from Mr. Bradshaw, and he indicated that Kansas Lumber was out of the lumber they needed that day. That's why they traveled to South Coffeyville.
Good. Okay. Well, then I guess they're watching that, aren't they? That's good. The second thing is I visited with Mayor George, and I think that we had a good discussion about the boards that we appoint, such as the, I'm sure you recall the discussion, such as the Board of Trustees for the hospital, and their recreation board, and the folks that we appoint to those boards. Like I said, the only time that we ever, some of the people like that we appoint, I know I see one of the persons that we've appointed to the rec commission all the time, but the other people that we appoint to these boards, I mean, the only time that we ever see them is when we appoint them, and then when either they come back for reappointment or they something bad happens or something along that line. And I would like to see this city come up with some type of alternative to where at least the people that we appoint to these boards, and we just appointed one now, two of them tonight, matter of fact, that there's got to be some type of open communication. We get their minutes once a month or whenever it is, but other than that, if we don't go out and seek these people out who are representing the city of Coffeyville, we never see them again.
Yes. I thought Chris had a real good idea, and just to carry it a little bit farther, and I think what Chris was trying to get at is, if we could set up like once or twice a year where the P and Z board comes in and we sit down and we talk to them about the goals of Coffeyville or how we could work together better. Same thing maybe with the rec commission and with the hospital and some of the other boards that we appoint, library board. Just sit down and have a warm fuzzy and talk about maybe the issues that we face and how we can help them or how they can help us improve Coffeyville and make life better for our citizens. I thought it was a good idea.
And that brought me back to what, I have to get my memory jogged, but it's like last meeting with the exchange between Commissioner Cashler and Doug Mish on the planning on the zoning committee. Commissioner Cashler, if they asked him if they still had some type of, resentment or whatever for us not following their recommendations, and he indicated that when he was on that board or whatever, that they kind of had some of those feelings. Well, the reason is that we're not on the same page, and the reason we're not on the same page is because we don't ever see them, and just simply the open line of communication between that board and us would alleviate a lot of that feeling and a lot of that problem.
What do you guys think?
I agree. I think it'd be good. That'd be a great idea. We can do it one shot, or just come in, or just separate time?
No, I think you need to have each group separately.
I
To
agree
give them
too,
enough
because-
time to,
Well, I'm saying that, you wanna do just one day, or different days, or?
I think that
I don't care.
we ought to stagger them throughout the year.
I agree.
Have each, whatever meeting, we invite, this board to, and then the next meeting, the next board, and because if we get them all in here at one time, we'll have so many people in here, we won't know which way is up.
Well, and it might be a case too where we want to go to their board meeting.
Or that
like
direction
P&Z.
too.
I do know
Exactly.
on the hospital board, and I haven't seen it this year, but if I remember
We
correctly.
generally meet with them in June.
Okay. And in June, we meet with them and they go through all their yearly stuff and everything else. But like I was telling you, P and Z board, I've never met with them as being a commissioner. Rec board, I've never met with the rec board either. So some of the others, maybe we ought to go to their meetings.
Sounds great.
Might make them feel more comfortable.
When you mention the hospital board, you mean the trustees?
No, we meet with both the directors and the trustees.
Okay.
In June, if that's what, it's a joint meeting, and they go over their budgets and everything else for the year,
Did we
and tell
do
us how
that?
they're doing.
Did we do that last June? Because
I don't remember.
We did
I
not
don't
do
remember
that
doing
in
that.
June.
Yeah, I didn't think
Last year.
that we did, because
Is there a reason for that, or?
I've never been privy to that meeting. The other thing too that I wanted to ask the city attorney, and I guess it's no secret, but we applied to evidently throw some people out of some hangars, and it was published in the paper. Where are we at on that situation?
Well, we're close to finishing that particular eviction. We have not been able to find that tenant. So once we finish that process, we'll be loading up the stuff, I guess, and taking it elsewhere and making that hangar available for rental.
Okay. We're not gonna be an owner of an airplane, are we?
I don't think there's an airplane.
Okay. All right.
We donate it to the sheriff's department.
Yeah, that's what we need. Need to fly it. Thank you.
Has any progress been made on us being able to sit down with the different departments and plan for a year or hear what their plans are for the next year?
The city department?
Yes, yes.
I met with slightly more than half of the department heads to go over their SMART goals within that was, I believe, last Thursday, and have the other 3 remaining department heads scheduled for tomorrow in the afternoon. to meet with them. There are a couple of from the first group that I need to circle back with, but I expect to have all of that wrapped up by Friday. My Thursday is pretty booked up though with interviews for the downtown traffic study, so.
After you get those done, then can we set up a work session? And
Yes, I would like to remind those of you that haven't responded to send me some dates that would work for you, and I will try and coordinate everybody's schedules to find out what will work.
is that the only night you can? Tuesdays.
That's my one, that's the best time for me. They just changing the schedule.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? I think we've got an executive session.
Do you want to say anything before we go to executive session? Move to adjourn executive session for discussion of non-elected personnel and the acquisition of real estate, acquisition of real property to reconvene on or before
Say 8:50.
8:50 following a 5-minute break.
Second. Aye.
Who seconded?
Commissioner Faulkner.
Motion was made by Commissioner Edwards and seconded by Commissioner Faulkner to adjourn to executive session for discussion of non-elected personnel and the acquisition of real property to reconvene on or before 8:50. And that will include a 5-minute break. All in favor?
Aye.